Hello, it's really a pleasure to be here again in another JupyterCon talking about some of the projects that I have been contributing around the Jupyter ecosystem. Today, I'm going to be talking about Elyra and some of the new functionalities that we have been adding into that more recently. My name again is Luciano Resende. I also have Carla Spoldaro with me. We work at IBM at the Code Day, which stands for Center of Open Source Data and AI Technologies. We pretty much do 100% contributions to open source projects directly into their community. Okay, so what is Elyra? Elyra is a set of AI-centric extensions for JupyterLab. It's an open source project that we have announced around April 29th. A lot of people ask me about the name. Elyra name is kind of like a wordplay with one of the Jupyter moons. We add a Y there, so instead of Elyra, it's now Elyra, similar to what we have in Jupyter. Let me go and move to the live demo that is going to help you guys understand a lot more of what's going on, what it is Elyra, and how it can help you build your analytics and AI models. You should already be familiar with the JupyterLab interface. And you will notice that after you install Elyra, there is going to be a new section in the workspace where some of the Elyra editors are being available. And you're also going to start seeing a few new additions on the left panel with related capabilities. Let's take a quick tour around Elyra, focusing on some of the new enhancements introduced recently. One of the most popular features we have is the pipeline editor. The pipeline editor simplifies the conversion of multiple notebooks into batch jobs or workflows. You can start adding multiple notebooks, and we recently just announced the ability to also include Python scripts. You can then start defining the dependencies between them, which will influence the execution order. And you can add additional properties to each of the nodes, where you specify runtime image, which is a Docker image, use it as an execution environment. We have predefined Docker images, but you also can specify your own. You can define file dependencies, environment variables, and also output files. Note that the output files are then going to be propagated to subsequent operations on the flow. If you have been using Elyra in the past, you've seen that we have enabled the execution of these pipelines in Kubeflow pipelines. We now added a panel, a left side panel here, where you can see a list of runtimes that you have available that gives you quick access to kind of like access the pipelines and experiments on that UI, and also look into associated files in the object storage. We also recently announced the ability to run these pipelines locally. And what is happening here is we just calculating kind of like the right order and executing those pipelines in your local environment. If you then look here, you will see in the console, kind of like the JupyterLab logs, all of the execution that is happening. And then coming back, once that execution is finalized, we get a notification, and we can kind of like just go ahead and open those notebooks, and you will see the executed results all there. You can also just go to where those files are and see generated files, for example. Regarding the runtimes, when you add that, you can see that now we have additional files for username and password. That is to enable you connecting to Kubeflow pipelines that are secured. Those are sort of like a common environment when you are on enterprise, or when you are execute that kind of like in production environments. Let's take a look at Elyra support for Python scripts. Elyra introduces the ability to create Python scripts directly from the workspace launcher, but for this demo, let me clone a GitHub repository that I already have some Python scripts filed there. Okay, let's take a look here. This is a repository that I just cloned. Elyra allows users to locally edit their scripts and execute them against local or cloud-based resources seamlessly. You can see that now I can select a environment that I need. For example, if I'm doing model training, I need TensorFlow with GPUs, or if I'm doing some analytics and I need PySpark. But for the case of this demo, I just need Python, simple Python environment. I'm just doing some pandas analytics here and calculating kind of like the sales price, the mean sales price for a given city. I can then go and execute those files, and you will see that the bottom on the Python console output, all the results are going to be available for you here, independent if this has been executed locally or, for example, remotely using cloud resources. Elyra also recently announced a Code Snippet extensions that allow users to add custom pieces of code that can be then reused in making programming in JupyterLab more efficient and reducing repetitive work. Let's take a quick look on how to use this. Let me create a new notebook. I have here some pre-configured code snippets. In this case, let me just add here the cell that check the version of TensorFlow that is being used. I see, oh, this is the right version. Now let me start putting some like graphing things, requirements that I need to start building and using Matplotlib. So I have all the imports here, and I have a template for kind of like a graph. I can basically easily import those and start executing. You see that out of the box, I then have kind of like a working notebook with all that I need, and then I can start customizing so that it applies to the use case that I'm trying to resolve here. This gives you a quick overview on what's new around Elyra. There are a lot more of the functionality that has been available for a little while. We have several other talks around JupyterCon that it's interest of you, and we'll demonstrate different areas and different aspects of Elyra. Please let me pass to Carla, which is gonna give you a lot more details on those. Thank you very much.
We have put together some helpful links for you to get started with Elyra today. Go to ibm.biz/Elyra-demo to run Elyra from Binder. No need to install anything, it's just a nice and easy way to test drive it. You can also install Elyra on your machine just by following this link. Here are all the prerequisites you need, all the installation steps. You can also run Elyra from Docker. And from here you can have access to the complete Elyra documentation. We have tutorials, user guide, how you can set up your deployments. You can read about the developer guide, and so on. There's also a link to Elyra's GitHub page. So either if you are a user, a data scientist, or a developer wanting to contribute to this project, your feedback is always appreciated. There are many ways to get involved, contribute to the projects, and become part of the open source community. Please give us a star on GitHub, fork the project if you want to help out on the development, submit bug reports or suggest improvements by creating issues or pull requests on GitHub. You can also help on code reviews, test them, give your feedback. And Elyra also has community meetings where you can stay up to date with the project, get to know the people involved. Feel free to share your comments live with the team. Our meetings happen once a week, every Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. There is a link to the WebEx room at the bottom of the README on Elyra's GitHub. You're more than welcome to join us. And we're also on Gitter if you prefer to chat with us. Also, if you're interested in learning about Elyra in more depth, here are other JupyterCon talks hosted by the IBM Code 18, including some talks about JupyterLab extensions, which is pretty cool. So that's it from us. We hope you get inspired by Elyra today